Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. I'm your DJ and host, Sam Wilson Jr., and I'm here to bring you the history genre of black music: gospel, jazz, blues, old school classic soul, old school hip hop, today's hip hop and R&B, Caribbean, Latin, Afrobeat, Afro-Latina, blue-eyed soul, disco, go-go, line dances, and the Lost 45s. So come with me as I take you on to a trip to the history destination genre of black music, right now on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and I have a special guest on my show. And this lady that I'm about to introduce to you is a singer, a songwriter, producer, model, and actress. I got a chance to check out her video, which is called Black Rain. That spells BLAC. Last name is REIGN. And I got a chance to see the video on YouTube. The bad news is I couldn't find it on iTunes. So please help me welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Malikah Powell, a.k.a. the Empress Malika. Hi, Malika. How are you?
Hello everyone.
Okay. Welcome to my podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here on my show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we're going to have a wonderful conversation about your career as an independent artist. So America may not know who you are, the world may not know who you are. So I'm very delighted to interview you on my Black Soul Music Experience podcast. So let us begin, shall we? Now, where were you born?
I was born in Harlem, New York City, New York.
Harlem's in the house.
Hey.
Yes, Harlem, USA, straight up represent. Yes. So I got me a Harlemite. And where once you lived on? Did you live on 132nd or 125th Street somewhere in Harlem?
No, mine. I was at 140, 41st, between Broadway and Riverside.
Oh, okay, because, I'm no stranger, to any of those areas because I once lived on West 139th Street between Lenox and 5th. It was called the Delanoy Village Apartments, which is now called Savoy Village Apartments. And yes, all of my cousins are still in Harlem, and some were born in
That's
Harlem. They
good.
moved to Brooklyn or Queens. And yes, I do have some more relatives, here in the Bronx, New York, and the rest are like upstate. Some are in the New England states, including Massachusetts and Maine, and the rest is in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, D.C., Virginia, and Cleveland, Ohio, and North and South Carolina, and I have one
Wow.
in Tennessee, and one in
Wow.
Detroit, Michigan, and the rest is out in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California. So I have a lot on my late father's side of the family, and not that much on my late mother's side of the family. So every time I go to reunions, you never know who you may bump into. So that's why I asked. I said, Harlem, yeah.
Hey.
Now, were your parents in the music industry or did they had 9 to 5 day jobs?
um, I wouldn't say 9 to 5 day job. And no, they weren't into music per se personally, like as a career that they were pursuing. but they listened to music a lot, very frequently in the household. There was tons of music in the household.
Okay. Now, which high school did you go to?
I went to Manhattan Center for Science and Math.
Okay.
That was in
And
East Hartford, east side of New York. So that's like Pleasant Avenue.
oh, okay. I call it like East Harlem, right by the FDR Drive, correct?
Right.
And which college did you go to?
The first college I went to was SUNY Albany. Even though I got accepted to Penn State, and that's the college I wanted to go to. Didn't pan out like that. So we wound up having to pick more affordable options. Because, being from the ghetto or growing up in the ghetto, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for kids that were going to college to pay for the college. So, anyhow, I wound up going to SUNY Albany, which was a pretty interesting experience.
Okay. Now, what was your major in college?
Um, it got switched around a couple of times. I think I wanted it to do pre-med, and then I switched it to like liberal arts. It went something like that. Yep. Because I didn't stay there very long. Because I had some domestic issues I was dealing with at the time.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it kind of clashed with my education at that time. So I been to many different colleges though. Yeah.
Yes, because when it comes to colleges, especially us people of color, you know how it is when you got to pay back your student loans and then your Pell Grants and everything. Because I didn't go to college, but I went to trade school in Manhattan, and I went to Center for the Media Arts on West 26th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. So my first choice was radio broadcasting, and then I got turned
Oh.
down by the second choice, so then I ended up being in graphic art and design. My late paternal
Oh.
uncle was an outstanding drawer, and he was best
Wow.
known for doing that Muriel cigar commercial that was back in 1950. And
Wow.
he worked at Seamus Cajon Studios, and that was founded by the daughter of the late Chico Marx of the Marx Brothers. You know, Groucho, Chico, and Harpo. You know those guys. So then Disney was getting ready to sign my uncle, but unfortunately he was drafted off to the Korean War. So my late dad and his two brothers and their brother-in-law was shifted off to the Korean War. But
The
every time my
Korean
late
War.
grand yes, and then every time my late grandfather was saying that, oh, okay, then your uncle was in advertising, art, and design. So I knew how to draw, but I didn't have the magic like my late uncle. And everything was kind of like drawing. So I kind of draw something from tracing paper, tracing it from magazines. I know how to trace cars and everything. So I didn't have the magic like my late uncle. So I was just like, imagine something. I would draw a billboard from during my travels. So even though I was in
So,
graphic art and design and also TV art computer graphics, so when I did some computer graphics, TV art background, but even though I was still looking for jobs, but radio was still my calling. So then that's how I got into radio, and that was my field. Even though my mom says, like, does it pay you some money? That they gave you some Social Security and for taxes and stuff like that. So she was just concerned. So my mom had worked in a hospital with better pay and stuff like that. Now, who did you want to
Wow.
be when you grow up?
Me, honestly, I always wanted to be a star when I was a kid. I wanted to just be one of those music artisans that were going and performing and singing and writing songs and doing all type of stuff as far as performing and the artistic design components. When you're young, you like younger, like those teenagers when they get into listening to different broadcast stations and stuff like that. And then, you have your favorite artisans on there, and so you're singing along. You kind of think that they did all that work, you know? Like, as a person, you're just looking at it like it's a visual. Like you said, art is art. It's artistic. Can be visual, can be on paper. There's different facets of it. But as a kid, I wanted to be a big grown-up star. So yeah, I listen to a lot of different genres, though, from R&B to pop. It was always changing, though. It was always changing in the household.
Now, that was the next question I was about to ask you, and then you already answered the question about the genres. Was being a singer and a songwriter your calling?
Was what?
Was being a singer and a songwriter, was that your calling?
I didn't come out and flat out and ask God that question yet. But I know it's in that ballpark, you know what I mean? As far as a singer songwriter, I know that I'm very gifted in that area, so it's a kind of a hint, big clue. Could be like
Now,
the different side of the picture, though, you know.
uh huh. Now, who were your favorite singers and songwriters?
I liked everybody from Monica to Brandy to Queen Latifah. Um, uh, Sade was a favorite of mine, and then the newer ones that came out: Janae Aiko, Rihanna, and the Katy Perry. She came in later on. I didn't grow up listening to Katy Perry because I didn't know any songs of hers. But Pink, the artist,
Oh,
and just everybody that I can't really say. Oh, I only listen to this little group of people. No, it was more like everybody that they were playing at the time, and they were pushing at the time, that they were promoting at the time. Yeah, it was different genres simultaneously.
okay. Now, who were your musical influences that had inspired you to sing?
Ooh, good question. I think I'm gonna. That's a toughy question too, but let's try to get the Reader's Digest version. So, a lot of people will say, when they say like you sound like A, B, and C, or you sound like this person or that person. So we're not going by that, right? Because I've had fans tell me I sound like um, an artist when I'm rapping, if I'm just like doing an exercise at home. Cause anyway, but the artists that influenced me would be Sade, everyone from Sade to Brandy to Aaliyah to Janae Aiko to Eurythmics to Shaka Khan. The list goes on and on and on on that one.
Okay. Now, didn't you one time was working on music scores for movies and television? Is that true?
That I think was a typo. That was a typo. That's my disclaimer. Um, my bio got done up several different times. Much of it I did myself, and some of it needs to be revamped because the way that I worded it wasn't completely accurate, and there were some typos in there. So as far as what I was talking about was that I had an ex-husband that I had been with, and he happened to be a script writer, and so he would create shows, like say concepts for shows, and I would put the music to it. And so one of them that we did was called Beyond the Arts. So Beyond the Arts, and I did the music for it. It aired on CCTV in Concord, New Hampshire. So anyway, yeah, I guess there's a lot of influences along the way. You're right about that.
Now, as I was saying, a music composer, which we're talking about right now, and I didn't know because I was looking at your bio when I was looking at Alignable, and when I said music composer, we don't see that much music composers back in the day, like
Oh,
Beethoven and
hold
Bach.
on. Sam, time out here. I
Yes.
have to interject here and actually answer your question about the
Okay.
music composing.
Uh huh.
So, as far as the music composing, I didn't know I could compose music until I was 30. When my ex-husband got me a keyboard, and I was pregnant with my first child, and I would go ahead and just play basically what I liked to hear, and that's how I got self-taught as far as finding my way around the keys on the keyboard. And one piece would lead to another piece, which would lead to another piece, and I would just connect them. I didn't know how to read or write music. Like, I can't read music, and but I can write a song, or I can compose segments, songs, beats, or just creative projects that you have going on. Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite fortes.
Okay, well, thank you for clearing it up because every time when I think of black composers, and you don't see it in the history books, me growing up, the only two conductors that I know was the late Isaac Hayes and the late Barry White. And they were influenced by symphonic soul. It's like the symphony orchestra, and you just
Yeah.
blend some soul music in with some strings and harp, and you mix it with some of that wah wah guitars and everything. So
I
me
like the
growing
wah
up,
wah guitar. I love strings and harp and all those instruments too. Yep, it's definitely. And then when you talk like other instruments, like sometimes you put the synth in there, and that does might be 80-ish, or depending on the project, right? Or it might be some futuristic sound. With me, it's like a box of chocolates too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you go in there, you go in the studio, like, okay, I'm gonna do a song. With me, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna do a song, but I don't know what's gonna come out of that. Like that moment. It could be any direction. So it makes it so fun, though. Go
Okay.
ahead, Sam. I'm
Now,
sorry.
oh, that's all right. We're having a wonderful conversation. Okay. Now, weren't you one time a model? Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. I modeled for FUBU. That was a while back. But it was in New York City, Harlem. Harlem is where I'm from. But I actually had went out and bumped into Damon,
Was it
who put
Damon
me on the
Dash?
list.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Was it Damon Dash or it was another Damon?
It was John Damon, Damon John. Sorry.
Okay. Uh huh.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. He's really like, what are you talking
That's
about?
all right. That's all right.
So yes, he was there, and he put me on the list, and we went to model the FUBU clothing line in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Magic Show convention. It was fun.
Oh, okay. Now, what would you prefer? Would you prefer singing or writing songs or conducting or all of the above?
I don't know why, but I feel like a multi-talented artist, because you you have like these different areas that you want to be creative in, like say entrepreneurs. Some entrepreneurs are interior designers and graphic designers, like you were saying, Sam. But for me, it's a little bit of each one that he mentioned. except I don't know about the conducting part. I more like choreography for me.
Okay. Oh, good. Now, let's talk about your song Black Rain. And I got a chance to check out the song on YouTube. Tell us about what was behind that song.
Which song are we talking about?
Black Rain, that's the one that I found on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, that's my album. It's not a song. It's not one song. It's the name of the
Oh,
album.
oh,
I'll
okay.
pull it up over here. So yeah, it was released in 2023. It's a collection of a lot of songs that I did that you can find on numberonemusic.com. Although if we look at those songs, some of them vary because I had collaborations with certain people, and I just wanted to put out all my original material that I did by myself. So yeah, that's the Black Rain album is to heart also because I shed a lot of tears on my journey. Yes, I did. you know, it's been difficult. It's not been easy, and I thank God I don't look like what I've been through. But goes a grain of salt with that one.
Okay.
and so, yeah, each each song has its own dynamic in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, I did get a chance to check it out on YouTube. I didn't get a chance to check out the other songs that I didn't mention. So, congrats on that Black Rain you just did.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Now, are you going to be working on a new album anytime soon?
Um, yes, I am. And I haven't decided what the name is yet for that album. But for now, I was putting singles out. Sifting through it is a chore sometimes. But anyhow, it depends. It's gonna depend on the theme. You know, I might just want to put piano pieces out or to that effect. So that's a different album, you know. Or maybe just the R&B stuff. You know, how about that? You know, maybe my fans want to hear just a concentrated pop. The most would be R&B pop or just R&B. It
Now,
depends.
oh, okay. Yeah. So, in other words, you're kind of like a mixture of everything. Just like you said earlier, your genres was like different types of music that you can put on there. Is that correct?
Yeah, like the music that's on the album is kind of like a medley of the journey I've walked and stuff, the tears I've shed and experiences I've gone through, as far as hence the name Black Rain, like tears. But tears can also be tears of joy, and so there's also that in there too. As far as the next album, probably is going to be a single, honestly, because I need to start a little bit smaller than I want to right now.
Yeah, because I've been
um,
seeing some stuff on iTunes, whether it's singles or this new term called EP. That's kind of new to me. I never heard of EP or anything. Me growing up, I just know about the LP. We never heard about EP before.
well, yeah. So, an EP, let's just look it up if you don't know what it is. We all have
Okay.
Google,
Yes,
right? We
that's,
can do this.
that's, we can
We
learn from
got
each
this,
other, so that's
Sam.
why we're here.
We got this, Sam. Hang on, I'll find out in a
O-
second.
okay.
So, in case you didn't know, I know what it is, but I'm just showing you. In case you didn't
Okay.
know, you could just Google it. It's it says that it's basically like it's in between the difference. They're talking about the difference between the EP and the single. So the EP apparently is 4 to 6 songs running with a total time of 30 minutes or less. That's what an EP is.
Oh,
4 to 6 songs with a total running time of 30 minutes or less.
oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so now since you're educating me, thank you because like I said, me growing up, I was just like LPs, just all 33, and a half LPs. And when you mention like 4 to 6 tracks, I keep thinking about Isaac Hayes and Barry White because they make those long songs. I mean, 4 songs, too long. Most of them are like 12, 13, 15 minutes. And
Wow.
and the same thing with jazz. You know, we had Miles Davis. Most of his instrumentals are like 15, 16, 17 minutes long. So me growing up, I have a couple of those albums, and I can tell you that some of those instrumentals, like you telling me now with the EP with the 4 to 6 songs are like 30 minutes. It's kind of like reminds me of all those LPs back in the day when you had Nat King Cole. You had those 6 songs on side one and 6 songs on the other side. It's like most of them are like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. So it's kind of like, okay, back then, back in the 50s and 60s, was only 2 minutes. During the 70s, it increases to 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And I just mentioned early, like 15, 20.
17
And
minutes. Right.
yes, I'm thinking about Donna Summer that, disco singles were moving in. They only play like one
Right.
track, 18 minutes. And that paved the way for the 12-inch singles and everything else. So it's kind of like new. I know that the seniors are not into that. What's EP? What's EP? And you explained it everything. It's kind of like an extended 30 minutes or everything. So you thanks for educating us because we may not know, old folks like me.
Hey, that's
I'm
what it's all
57 going
about
on
when you're a
58.
do-it-yourself thinker, right?
Right.
Like, wait a minute, I gotta back up about 2 paces and learn what the hell is an EP. And now back to these messages.
Now, here's a question that I always ask my guests. Living or dead, which singer or songwriter or composer that you wish you wanted to meet or you want to perform with?
I would have loved to meet Michael Jackson. He was just an amazing pop sensation. Like I don't think we're gonna see the likes of the same. You can't imprint over an imprint. He's a classic. But yeah. So with Whitney Houston, nobody can sing it like she brought so much emotion, like feeling. It made babies cry, and I did see a TikTok video where the baby was watching Whitney Houston sing her song, and it just brought the baby to start crying. It was the cutest thing ever, though. But so yeah, that they would be top up there. Yeah, I wish I could sing like Whitney Houston. I could sing like Malika, but not like Whitney Houston.
Yes. Now, here on the Black Soul Music Experience, I always ask my guests who are the top 10 R&B black singers of all time. So, since I have you, we're going to be doing the top 10 R&B black singers and songwriters of all time. Now, here's how it works. We do it like a top 10 top 10 countdown. So we start at number 10. We start at the ones or the bottom 5. We start with those who was the best singer but didn't get any recognition. That will be the bottom 5. When we get to the top 5, we always ask who was the best singer songwriter of all time. That artist had those top 10 number 1 hits. That artist received a gold or platinum or double platinum or triple platinum or today diamond, platinum? Did that artist receive some awards, whether it's American Music Award or a Grammy or a BET Award or a Soul Train Award or an MTV VMA Award? Did that artist performed on Soul Train or American Bandstand or Solid Gold or NBC Saturday Night Live? Or did they perform on those local dance shows across the country? Or did they perform a special on PBS during Pledge Month? Or did they have their own prime time special, whether it's on CBS or NBC or ABC? Or did they have that live special on HBO or Showtime? So, Malika, I'm going to put you to the test. So, are you ready to take that challenge?
Wait, no, I'm not ready for this challenge. Like, no. Go ahead.
Well, okay, but if you get stuck, I can help you. And, you know, so I'm going to start first, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, number 10, I'm going to start with some of the singers that had some hits but didn't get that much recognition. So I'm going to put down Johnny Gill. Johnny Gill, who made his debut back in 1984. He's best remembered for doing a duet with Stacey Lattisaw with their top 10 hit, Perfect Combination. And then Johnny Gill had a couple of albums, but didn't get those hits back then. That was back in the mid-'80s until by the time he signed with Motown back in 1990. He had some hits, including Rub You the Right Way and Wrap My Body Tight, just to name a few. But still, he didn't get that much oomph back then. And by the time in the late 80s, he joined New Edition to replace Bobby Brown. And then he went on his own again, had some hits back then. So I'm going to put Johnny Gill at number 10. So, Malika, I'll have you start.
You're having me start. Oh boy. Okay. You said number 10. You started with 10.
Yeah.
So you said you would rate him on the 1 to 5 because he didn't have a lot of.
That would be like the bottom 5. In other words, he had some of the songs, but didn't get that much top 10 hits or didn't get any recognition. So even though Johnny Gill had some hits, but not that much hits, because he didn't have any producers to promote his LPs back then. So it was just a standstill. So he was with Atlantic Records back in the mid-'80s, but didn't get any much hits when he switched labels.
Okay. I'm not good at this category. And I'll explain why. The reason being is because I do not know the answers. I don't have the answers. And I'm telling you, it's because I pretty much like to stay in my own little kind of bubble when I'm creating music, because I don't want to say for the most part, I don't like trying to sound like somebody else or trying to sound like the next girl over there, or and so that's the reason for that part. But anyway, go ahead. He's taking me on a rabbit hole here. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna put number 9, the Jets. I don't know if you remember that group.
Jets?
Yes, that's like the Wolfgang family coming out of, I believe they're from either Samoa, somewhere near Hawaii, but they made their debut back in 1986 with their hit called Crush on You and that love ballad, You've Got It All.
Oh,
And
right.
they
Yeah, I
made their
remember that
debut back in
song. Was that
1986.
what year?
1986.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a family of 8. So it's kind of like the Silvers and the Jacksons and the Osmonds, but this was a family group that came out of either Samoa or Hawaii. And those two hits that I just mentioned, Crush on You and You've Got It All, that was the love ballad ever. So
I
they
remember
had
Crush
some
on
hits.
You. Yeah.
So once again, they had some hits, but didn't get any recognition back then. So I'm gonna put the family group, the Jets, that be at number 9. Now, for me, at number 8, I'm gonna go old school. So number 8. Hey, I'm in my late 50s, baby. So
Yeah.
I've been around. I've been around all music. So I've been dropped off by every babysitter, like my late maternal aunt. She would play
Are
gospel
you
music
serious?
all day. Gospel music all day.
Wow.
And with my maternal grandparents, my maternal grandpa would start playing some Motown. He would play some Atlantic records. He would play some Stax records. That includes the Isaac Hayes LP. He had that LP called the Isaac Hayes Movement. When I look at that album cover, I say to myself, is he swirling in a bowl of cream of wheat? And then I look at the back album cover. Is he cross-eyed or blind? And when I opened up the album cover, I said that was his trademark, Shades and Chains. And as I mentioned, he had 4 songs, too long. And Symphonic Soul, that was his influence with the orchestra. So when I mentioned those, I'm doing old school. So number 8, I'm going to put down Johnny Taylor. He's best known for his hits Who's Making Love and Jody's Got Your Girl and Gone. He was on the Stax label from 1968 until Stax closed its doors. And then by
Wow.
1975, he moved over to CBS Records. He had his LP called Eargasm. He had his number 1 hit called Disco Lady, number 1 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts, and also number 1 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts. That was back in the spring of 1976. And that was his only number 1
Ah, you
hit.
see, there you go. That's. I was born in '76. That
Oh,
was the
okay.
trick question, Sam. Not fair.
Yeah.
It's
But
okay.
anyway, but anyway, I'm
But
putting Johnny
yeah,
Taylor
later
at
on,
number
people
8.
started knowing about him because the parents would play the records. I just happened to like not have such a great memory of all of the intricate details of memorizing. Yes, that is a issue for me. So me personally, yeah, that would kind of you'd have to kind of take the ball and run with it on that one.
Okay. Now, for me, number 7, I'm going to put down Roy Ayers because he's known for his jazz and funk. And he's known for his tunes, including Everybody Loves the Sunshine and Running Away. Those were his 2 hits that crossed over on Billboard Soul Singles charts, and it was played on black radio a lot. But back then, he had some music scores. He did the music for the movie Coffee. back in 1973. And he had some other tunes, including the song Searchin'. And that song was later sampled by hip hop group Edo G and the Bulldogs. That was back in the early 90s. So when I first heard the song that Edo G and the Bulldogs was called Be a Father to Your Child, and then you hear that background, and then I started playing Roy Ayers. I said, wait a minute, ain't that the song that was sampled by Edo G and the Bulldogs? So when I hear that background, you hear the vibes and everything. So Roy Ayers had played the vibes, the real vibes. I think he had some of that electronic vibes back then. And I mean, his songs would like get you on the dance floor, whether it's funk or jazz or any type of jazz that he would play. So I'm putting Roy Ayers at number 7. And in case you may not know, the song Everybody Loves the Sunshine, that song was later sampled for Mary J. Blige for the song My Life. So I put Roy Ayers at number 7. So
That's pretty good.
okay, so for number six, I'm gonna put down the late Irene Cara. She is
What?
best known for her tunes, the theme from Fame, the movie, and also she did her
It's
number
hard to
one
hear
hit.
you, Sam.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just a little muffled. I have to kind of strain to hear you.
Okay, all right. Irene Cara, she'll be put at number 6. She is best known for her hit,
Fame.
the theme from Fame, yes, 1980, and also the theme from Flashdance, What a Feeling. That was her only number one hit back in 1983. And yes, she did some acting. As I mentioned, the movie Fame, she was in the movie. She played the role of Coco. And before that, she was in some other movies, including Aaron Loves Angela with Kevin Hooks. And she made her debut on television. She was a member of the group called the Short Circus. And that was on the original, The Electric Company, which was aired on PBS. And I didn't
The
know that was Irene
electric
Cara
Wait,
in
wait,
that.
back up, back up.
You remember The Electric
You s-
Company?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, but so back up. You said she worked there with him at the electric company.
Well, she was a member of that singing group called the Short Circus. And I didn't
Oh,
recognize Irene Cara at first. And I said, what? Irene Cara? She was in that group, the Short Circus, for the show, The Electric Company. I was like, wow, I didn't
yeah.
know that. So she was in that singing group. And she did some other acting roles on the miniseries Roots, The Next Generations on ABC. And she was in that TV movie called Sister Sister that was aired on NBC that had the late Diane Carroll and the late Rosalind Cash. So she did some singing
Before they
and
modernized Sister Sister, had there was another show called Sister Sister.
yes, and that's not the same one. It was a different type of Sister Sister. It was a drama
Oh,
that was aired on NBC back in 1982. And the names that I mentioned, Diane Carroll and Rosalind Cash. So I'm
right.
going to put Irene
Diane
Cara at
Carroll and
number.
Rosalind Cash. Yeah.
All right, I'm up to the top 5, okay? We're getting ready to do the top 5. So, number 5, I'm putting down The Barge. The whole DeBarge
Yeah.
family, El, Chico, and Bunny, James, just to name a few. They made their debut back in 1982 with their song called All This Love and that other song, I Like It. And other tunes came out, including Rhythm of the Night. That was from the movie The Last Dragon that starred Vanity and Tamiyak, with that kung fu artist. And they had some string of hits, and some of their songs were sampled by hip hop artists, including the notorious B.I.G. and Ashanti, just to name a few. So I'm putting the DeBarge family, or DeBarge, at number 5. Okay, now number 4 for me, I'm putting down Marvin Gaye. And Marvin Gaye has been around during the 60s and 70s and early 80s. He had some hits, including How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You, did some duets with the late Tammy Terrell, and then by 1971, his masterpiece LP, What's Going On, that album went gold, and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. He had 3 hits. His number 1 hit, What's Going On, number 1 on Billboard Soul Singles Charts back in March of 1971 for 5 weeks. His other albums, including Let's Get It On, he did the Trouble Man soundtrack, he did the other album, I Want You, he did 2 live LPs. The first live in 1974 and the other live LP at the London Palladium. Then by 1982, he switched to CBS with his LP called Midnight Love. Number 1 hit, Sexual Healing, came out in December of 1982. It stayed there for 10 weeks. He won an American Music Award and a Grammy Award. And this was his best night. So he had his American Music Award and his Grammy Award. Sadly, 2 years later, he was shot and killed by his father. So rest in peace to Marvin Gaye, singer, songwriter, and inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the class of 1987. Now for number 3,
He was shot by his dad?
Yes, Marvin
Oh,
Gaye
wow.
Sr. That was on the eve of his birthday. I believe he was born on April 1st, and which was April Fool's Day, April 1st or April 2nd. So when I heard the news that someone shot Marvin Gaye, then we found out that was his father, because they had a little argument between some things and everything. So that was kind of like a shocking to us in the black music world. So rest in
Yeah,
peace
it's
to
messed up.
Marvin Gaye. I'm going to put him at number 4. Number 3, I'm putting down the Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin. And she have churned out hits back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s, and up into the early 2000s. She's best known for her
And
songs
Patti
Respect.
LaBelle.
Yes, we'll put Patti LaBelle at number 2. Patti LaBelle, she's best known for her outrageous hair. She started out with the group LaBelle. I don't know if you remember, they were known for their space funk dresses or wardrobes and things like that. And when Patti LaBelle went solo, I was watching Motown Returns the Apollo, and she came on stage, and I looked at her and said, is that her hat? And then I found that was her real hair. What was that new hairdo? Something like that. What was this?
New hairdo.
Yes. And oh my goodness, she had some hits back in the 80s, including Love and Need and Want You, If Only You Knew. And then some of the songs, including New Attitude from the movie Beverly Hills Cop. Other songs, including On My Own, duet with Michael McDonald, and everything. Churning out hits back in the 80s and 90s. So we're putting Patti at number 2. And number 1, I'm putting down Stevie Wonder. He's one of the singers, songwriters. He started out at the age of 12 with his hit called Fingertips. And in the 70s, he had his number one hit, You Are the Sunshine of My Life, Superstitions, I Wish, Isn't She Lovely? And in the 80s, his number one hit, I Just Called to Say I Love You, from the movie The Woman in Red. And he won an Oscar for Best Original Song. So
Are you talking about Stevie Wonder?
Stevie Wonder. They call him Genius, or they call him the Wonder Man. So that's, his nickname is everything. So he had hits including My Sharia Moore and his other songs including Living for the City and his other
Yeah,
song
all
called
those
Happy
songs are
Birthday.
very, very familiar.
Yes. And we don't
Right.
want to leave out his song called Happy Birthday. That was a song dedicated to the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And that was from his LP Hotter Than July. And he dedicated that album in memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Not only he was a singer, songwriter, and producer and arranger, he was also an activist, making Dr. King Day a national holiday. And, you know, he worked so hard for everything. So in 1983, I was there when President Reagan signed the bill to make Dr. King Day a national holiday. And we had to wait until 3 years, to 1986, to make a national holiday. But that's Stevie. He did his best, whether it's performing with other singers or whether he was performing, participating with USA for Africa, We Are the World, or with participating with Dionne Warwick along with Gladys Knight and Elton John with their song, That's What Friends Are For. All the proceeds went for AIDS research and everything that he done. So he won a Grammy, American Music Award. He got his Award of Merit. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the class of 1989. And yes, he won an Oscar. So hats off to the Wonder Man, Stevie Wonder. So that's my top 10 hit artists of all time.
That's awesome. I like how you broke all that down as far as the way you described everything, how they got into this stage versus that stage versus, you know, everybody's career kind of takes on its own way, the way that that person is meant to have it unfold, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Malika,
So-
thank you so much for being here on the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for being here and for your accolades. Thank you again. And we're looking forward to seeing your LP anytime soon.
Aw, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam Wilson Jr., for having me on the show. And thank you guys out there for watching. Bye.
Okay. Before we go, where can we follow you for any upcoming events? And where can we follow you on social media?
You can follow me at the Empress Malika on Instagram.
Okay, so thank you for that quick plug. Download all the artists that we have talked about on this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Visit iTunes.com, Spotify.com, or purchase a CD at Amazon.com. Make sure you follow Malikah Powell, or her stage name, the Empress Malika. Follow her at Instagram/the Empress Malika. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out and ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out this episode, please subscribe by going to the link. The link is riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s. Don't forget to add the S to the end, -studio. And yes, I will be posting this episode on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you have a hard time getting on to riverside.fm, then please become a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And if you have a hard time getting on to Patreon, then I will be posting this episode coming soon to YouTube. And please pass it on. Thank you for joining me as I close out this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience. Well, that's about it for this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining me, and please tune in next week for an all-new episode. The Black Soul Music Experience Podcast is sponsored by the support of listeners like you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe by going to riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s-studio. And don't forget to check out my audio podcast episodes by becoming a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And also check out my video podcast episodes by subscribing to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And please leave your comments, feedbacks, and replies by going to my Facebook homepage. Visit facebook.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And you can also tweet me on X, aka Twitter, at Sam Wilson Jr. 66. As always, parting, remember this: reach for the top and your dreams will come true, and it can happen to you. From all of us, take care, God bless. Thanks for listening, have a good week, and please be safe.